Morning everyone, my name is Audrey. I'm Stitchywitch42 here on flosstube and over on Instagram, and this is my channel about cross-stitch, life, the universe, and everything. And as I have been for the past several videos, I'm starting with a life update. If you've been following me for a while, thank you very much. If you're new to my channel, I hope you stay and listen to my story. And then like and subscribe, of course. But I'm going to start with a little bit of a life update. I have cancer. I have pancreatic cancer, and I am going through chemo. And this last month has been so rough. I went in for my 4th session, and everything was going along as normal, but my sessions are every other Tuesday. But as I got closer to when the 5th session was supposed to be, I wasn't feeling the more towards normal that I had previously. And the night before my 5th session was scheduled, I was in an absolute panic because I knew I couldn't do it the next day. But we drove up there. And we got there, and the nurse came out and was taking me back to the treatment room, and I started crying. I said, I don't think I can do this. And she goes, that's okay. And that made me feel so much better. And she goes, will you stay long enough to talk with the provider? It's going to be about an hour before he gets here. And I said, yeah, I can do that. So when he came in, I told him, I said, I don't think I can do this. And he goes, that's okay. And I felt so much better. I felt so much relief. And he asked me why, and I gave him all the reasons why I was feeling bad. Shaky, punky, just not feeling good, not getting any more towards the normal range like I had in the past. And he said, okay, we don't have to do that. So I stayed and talked with him for a while, and we discussed things that I could do to help myself feel better. They pushed some fluids on me because I really needed them. Along with the pancreatic cancer, it just doesn't stop there. I've got alien baby, which is still doing its thing. And because of losing part of my pancreas, I am now diabetic. And I learned something about diabetes. Everybody usually hears of diabetes type 1 and diabetes type 2. Infantile diabetes and adult onset diabetes. Well, when you lose part of your pancreas, which is what helps create the insulin in your body, there's a special category. I'm diabetes 1.5. Because I'm just not special enough. But learning how to deal with that, dealing with the chemo, dealing with alien baby, it's a lot. It's a lot, and it's been a really difficult month. I'm feeling more towards normal today. It's Sunday the 22nd. I go in for my next chemo session on Tuesday. And I'm feeling more like I can handle it this time. So, besides feeling like crap, I did get to do some fun stuff this past month. I got up to Acorns and Threads a couple of times. I went up there on the 6th, which was right after my last chemo session should have been. 24 minus 12 minus 14 is 10. No, it was right before. Whatever. I was feeling crappy on the 6th. Mark drove me up there as he does, and I managed to last about an hour before. It's hard to describe it. It's just this overall feeling of not feeling well and shaking and feeling like crap. So we drove back home after about an hour, and that night was my oldest granddaughter's graduation, which I had so looked forward to going to. We went, my son-in-law and my other granddaughters and his mom and my daughter were there. They'd saved seats for us. We were in the first row in the bleachers, which was covered, and the sun was behind us, so that was good. But it was a bad day for me. I was feeling punky and shaking so bad, and Mark was pushing fluids on me, and it took about an hour before the graduates got to walk out on the field. And then I forgot about the speeches and how many people have to get up and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk because they love the sound of their own voice. It's me being petty. I couldn't handle it. I was shaking so badly that we had to leave. And I didn't actually get to see my granddaughter graduate, which devastated me then and still devastates me now. But she came over the next day and she understood. She knew I tried and she knows what I'm going through. So there's that. I wanted to go up to Acorns and Threads last Thursday. It was a regular stitch day. And Mark looked at me the night before, and while I'm feeling more towards normal, he goes, unless you're feeling a whole lot perkier tomorrow morning, you're not driving by yourself. And I looked at him and I said, I think you like coming up there with me. And he didn't deny it. So we got up the next morning and he looked at me and he goes, am I driving? And I said, yes, you're driving. This time I managed to stay about 3 hours, and I actually started a new piece while I was up there. So, life is done. Cross stitches here. There's not a lot. There's only 3 pieces. But I think they're all worth sharing. A while back, I had seen my friend Lore McCleary, textilist. She was stitching on a piece, and I just thought, it's simple and it's lovely, and I needed to stitch it. And I asked her where she got the pattern, and she said it's a Teresa Kogut pattern. It's in the Hello Spring pamphlet, and it's called Stitcher's Strawberry. So I had all the colors, excuse me, I had all the colors at home except for one, DMC 21. Had all the others. And I went through my fabric that I have here because I have a ton of fabric and I really need to use up what I have and not go and buy things. Although when I was at Acorns and Threads, I did go over and look because I think I would have preferred a lighter background, but I'm kind of happy with this background now that I've started it. So this is my start on Stitcher's Strawberry. The fabric is Tombstone by Atomic Ranch. I really like the fabrics, but I'm liking how that is looking. And it is one that I can stitch without a magnifier, although more and more I'm finding that I like just using the magnifier because it makes it easier on my eyes. So that was Thursday. Friday my sister was supposed to come over, and she texted me in the morning because she lives up in Washington and it's quite a drive, and she goes, how are you feeling? And I said, this morning not so good. So we postponed her visit until Wednesday, which will be the day after chemo, which since I'll be on steroids should be, who knows, who knows, who knows. But she's coming down next Wednesday. I'm looking forward to that. Yesterday, Mark and I ran away from home. We had talked about it earlier in the week, and I said I wanted to get away from the house. and go someplace that wasn't a hospital. Because, you know, there's that. And he asked me where I want to go, and my answer is always, I want to go to the coast. I always feel just relief pour off me the closer I get to the coast. And while it's really difficult for me to walk on the sand anymore with the knees and, yeah, with the body, we decided to go the other route. We went over to Bend. Oregon is a gorgeous state. We have coast, which is beautiful. We have the Willamette Valley, which is where I live in Silverton, which is this lush green strip down the center of Oregon where a lot of the crops are grown, not all of them, but there's hops grown around here, there's orchards, there's vineyards, there's just, it's a lush green area. And then as you move east, you go over the Cascade Mountains until you get to the east side of Oregon where you've got high desert, and that's where Bend is at. And it's about a 2-mile drive from our house. And pretty much we drove there and back. You know, we stopped at a garage sale, we stopped at an antique shop, we stopped at a bookstore. I bought myself a new book. I've been doing a lot of reading lately. I found a lady, I'll link her down below. I really like her booktube reviews. But this is an author that she had recommended, and I'd already read one of his stories. I got myself The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. Now, the other book of his that I read was How to Sell a Haunted House, and it really creeped me out because it had dolls and puppets. No. But I read it, and it just creeped me out. Which every once in a while, you need to have a good creep, right? This one is about 5 ladies. They're in the South. They start a book club. They're reading about the Manson murders. They're reading about Ted Bundy and all these various things. And someone shows up who may or may not be a vampire. So, I haven't gotten very far into it, but I'm enjoying it. We went to a vinyl LP shop. Mark went in, I stayed in the car and started my book. And he comes out and he goes, I want you to know that when you have the specialty sale for all of his LPs, he has over 2,600 LPs in his collection. He said, you're sitting on a gold mine. And I'm just like, oh, okay. I'd rather keep him. I'd rather keep him. We stopped at like I said, we stopped at a garage sale. It was at a school, and they were raising money for their trip to Washington, D.C. next year. And it was pay what you want for what you pick up. So I found a frame, and I walked up there and I said, this is for a school trip, right? And they said, yes. In Goodwill, I'd probably pay $2 or $3 for this. At a garage sale, I'd probably pay 50 cents to $1 for it. I looked at them, I said, it's for a trip. How about if I give you a $5? It's the grandma in me. You got to take care of the kids. And if it helps them get the money for the trip, it's all good. But I was talking cross-stitch and I got distracted by my trip. Oh, on the way back from the trip, we stopped at the Habitat for Humanity in Sisters, Oregon. Huge shop. Did not find anything there. I was sad, but it was a nice day away from the house. And I needed it. I needed it. So, I have a finish. This is a kit that I bought a while back. According to the tag, I bought it in 2022. This is the Patriotic Heart kit. Now, the kit comes with everything. There is fabric to stitch in here, there's fabric for the backing, there was the pre-cut floss for stitching the design, there's trim for going around the heart, there's a ribbon and a charm in there. I looked at this fabric, I pulled it out and I looked at it, and it's Confederate gray 36 count. And I looked at this picture, and that's red, white, and blue. The white is not stitched. And I looked at the fabric, and it's like, no, I don't want to stitch it on Confederate gray. It would probably look really, really lovely on Confederate gray, but no, I didn't want to do it. So, I bought some antique white linen. And here's my finish. I made mistakes. Not personalizations. I made mistakes. Kind of big mistakes. This is 32 count antique white linen, and I stitched it 2/2. And I got most of the blue area up here done. And then I came over here and I was stitching on some of the blue flowers. And I had to tear this one out because I put it in the wrong spot. And then I had to tear this one out because I put it in the wrong spot. So there's wasted floss there. And then I'm looking at it and I still have half of this blue area to do and all the blue flowers down here, and I don't have enough blue floss left. So I contacted Acorns and Threads and I said, I bought this kit in 2022. Do you happen to know what the colors are? Because when I look on the color guide, oh, I'm making a liar out of myself. But still, it says colors, off-white, green, blue, red. And I just saw that it says what the thread is. But it still didn't tell you which specific color because it's not DMC. So I contacted Acorns and Threads and asked if they knew what the blue was, and I didn't hear back from them, which is understandable because they were probably researching it. And then I thought, well, she's got her email down here, so I got a hold of Samplers Not Forgotten, who is the designer of the pattern. And I said, I'm really sorry for bothering you, but I'm running out of the blue on my Patriotic Heart kit. Do you happen to know what color that was? And she came back with, she wasn't at home, so she couldn't look at her charts right away, but she thought that it was Weeks Dye Work blue suede. So I called Acorns and Threads and I said, do you have Weeks Dye Works blue suede? And it does say Weeks Dye Works on the back of the pattern, I just saw that, but it doesn't tell you which shade of blue. And they said they did, and I said, will you send it to me? And they said, sure. And I said, do you want my credit card number? And they said, no, we'll just put it on an invoice for you. I'm up there enough, they know I'll pay for these things. So I got the blue, and I finished all the blue stitching and all the blue flowers. And then I started on the red. And I got about halfway through here, and I realized I don't have enough red. And I went back and I looked at the back of it this time, and this time I actually read the directions, and it says 36 count Confederate gray is what you're supposed to stitch on, 1/2. 32 count, 2/2. So I contacted Kimberly again and I said, I'm sorry, I'm having a really blonde moment. And I realized what my mistake is and why I'm running out of floss. Do you know what the red color is? And she came back with Cayenne. And I called Acorns and Threads. And I said, do you have Weeks Dye Works Cayenne? And they said, yes. And I said, will you send it to me? And they said, yes. I said, will you add it to my invoice? And they said, yes. And they sent it to me. And after all of that, I finished it. I think it's beautiful. I'm going to try to put the trim on myself, which should be a disaster all by itself. I don't know if I'll put the bow on it, because if you know me, you know I'm not a bow person. I see lots of people who finish their pieces with bows and picks and all sorts of stuff like that, and that is not me. I've told people before, if you ever see me put bows and picks on my finishes, I've been abducted by aliens, and you need to come rescue me. So let's talk Alien Baby. After I missed my treatment session, I had some issues with Alien Baby, and I ended up having to go back in for them to do a drain check on it, and they replaced the drain with a larger tube, so it's draining more. They said the CT scan shows that the abscess is getting smaller and it is healing, so that's good. And I go back, not this week, but sometime next week, for them to check it again. I'm hoping, so hoping they'll say, okay, we can take the drain out. It's been over 2 months and I'm rather tired of it. But a friend of mine, she sent me an Alien Baby trap. And when she told me she was sending me this, I was like, what the heck is an Alien Baby trap? And what I got was this. It is a hot air balloon. But in the hot air balloon, it looks like a cage, and it's full of aliens. There's grays, there's greens, there's white aliens in there. In fact, when I took it out of the box, one of the grays had escaped from the cage, and I pushed him back in there. And I'm going to put that out of my car to take with me when I go up for my sessions for whatever, because I have an Alien Baby trap. Oh. Okay. The last piece. Okay. The last piece I have to show you is the piece I am stitching from the Witchy Stitcher. I am stitching this because when I saw it, it was the perfect piece for me to use to record dealing with cancer and chemo. This is The Difference Between Medicine and Poison is the Dose by the Witchy Stitcher. And my last video, I shared that I wanted to stitch it on perforated paper because I want it to go into a journal. I'm trying to figure out in my mind how to create a page in there that will record all of this. And I have ideas, and I've been watching other people do things, and I keep getting more ideas, and I'm just letting that idea grow to be the page in my journal. And then this pattern is going to go on top of it and as a flip out. So I decided to stitch mine on perforated paper. This is something that I had been wanting to do for a while. Janine, who's the owner of Acorns and Threads, she goes to the attic every year and helps with the Bristol weekend. And it was either last year or the year before, she brought back copies of samplers that had been done by these girls at the Bristol orphanage that were actually done on perforated paper. And that kind of planted the idea in my mind that I wanted to try to do something like that. it planted something in my brain that I wanted to try and do something like that, but I hadn't thought at that time what it would be. But when I saw this pattern, I thought this would be my opportunity to do it on perforated paper. The size of the pattern is 12 1/4 by 12 1/4. And most perforated paper that I have found is an 8 1/2 by 11 sheet, so it wasn't going to be big enough. And some friends of mine told me about Dutch Treat Designs. If you go there, you can buy different sizes of perforated paper. And this is what I got. This is 12 by 18. And there was 2 pieces in there. So, but it was white. And I didn't want to stitch on white. So in my last video, I showed you how I used Tim Holtz Distress Oxide inks and water to spray paint the perforated paper, and it gave it a wonderful mottled effect. Some of the threads blend with it, but that's okay because there's enough around them that you can still see them, and it's the look that I want. Right now, to my knowledge, there are 4 other ladies who are stitching on this hashtag Poison Sal with me. The first one is Helen D. She had contacted me and said, when are you going to start this? I'll start with you. And then she announced it on her videos, and thank you, Helen. She is stitching hers on a blue fabric. I think it's called Dreamy, but I don't remember who it's by, and she's doing a bottom start. And then there's Michele, who is Mainemoosemomstitcher on Instagram. She doesn't have a floss tube. She's also stitching hers on a blue. And I don't know if she did a top start or a center start. Hers is a darker blue than Helen's. Both of them are gorgeous. Then there is Marissa, Kissa Creations, who has flosstube and Instagram. And all these people will be listed down below. She's stitching hers on a purple, and I know it's called Artemis, but I don't remember who it's by, and it is gorgeous. And then there's Carolee, who is stitching as Elementary on flosstube and Instagram, and she's stitching hers on a Nicholas Flamel fabric from the Harry Potter collection, but I don't remember what it's called. It's greens and browns, and all of them, all 4 of those are gorgeous. And then there's me. I'm stitching mine on perforated paper. So, let's see if I can hold this up without it strobing like it did the other night on the Zoom. This is where I am at on my piece, and there will be a skeleton going down this side. In the pattern, there's a skeleton going down this side, but I opted to leave that off because my plan is, being on perforated paper, I'm going to cut this out like a mill hill. Some of the colors that blended was the word "the" up here, so I just took a darker color and did a backstitch on the side to make it a little bit more noticeable. All of these down here I think are looking really, really good. I made a mistake with the M. Realized I missed a row on this side, so I added a row, and I recounted 42 times to make sure that the bottom was the right distance from up here, because I needed to do the other letters from the bottom here. So then I did the E, and I don't know what I did wrong with the E, but it's wrong. It's okay. I left it. Then I did the D. And yeah, it's wrong. And right here in this lighter section, it's really hard to stitch these light colors because without my magnifier, I don't see them. So I decided to leave this alone for right now. I went over and I did the between. I'm doing this bit down here, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to finish medicine from this side so that I can make sure that all the bottoms line up. If the tops don't line up, it doesn't matter. It's kind of part of the story, if you will, of what I'm going through. And yeah. So that's where I'm at with that. I've received some happy mail. I got a lovely card from Niecie Lynn with a little hand-drawn flower on the front of it. She put a note in here and told me that I had been traveling in her purse with her for a couple of weeks. So thank you, Niecie Lynn. I love watching your videos. I get a kick out of all your stories. And then I got a card from Michele Mainemoosemomstitcher. And this card made me feel so much better about my hair. But it's still coming out every time I brush it. When I blow dry my hair, I just watch it fly all over around me. So I don't know if or when I'm going bald, but the hair is coming out. And then my friend Stacy, my sister witch, Stacy Postal Stitcher on Instagram. I got a package from her yesterday of Harry Potter goldfish butterbeer flavor. It says they're butterscotch flavored. I haven't tried them yet. I'm saving these as a treat. So reveal your spellbinding treat. It looks like there's an owl in there and a butterbeer keg, and I'm saving these as a treat. I think that's everything. Mark has been working on my garden for me. It's been 1.5 years since they did the street work, and he just got the area outside the fence filled with potting soil. He put landscaping cloth down and filled it with potting soil. And next week I'm going to make him go with me to the garden center, and we're going to pick out some lavender because I really want to have lavender out there for the bees. Yeah. Life is pretty much staying at home, stitching on the days that I can, reading on the days that I can't stitch because I'm shaking so bad, going up to OHSU for treatments, and Alien Baby, which I really hope goes away soon. I promised myself that when Alien Baby goes away, I get to go buy myself a new pair of jeans, because I've lost about 40 pounds. Hasn't been planned. It's kind of maintaining right around 37 to 40 pounds, but still, the jeans I have fall off my hips. That's such a bad thing. I don't know when I will be back again, because this journey is one you don't know what you're going to do until you have to deal with it. So that's kind of where I'm at. I'm taking it day by day. I'm trying to eat. I'm trying to drink more because I'm learning with the diabetes I need to drink a lot more clear fluids throughout the day to keep my numbers from going up. It's a lot, people. It's a lot. Okay, my camera cut out, and I don't know what I was talking about because I wasn't watching it. This journey through cancer and chemo, Alien Baby, and learning to deal with diabetes, it's one that you don't know what you're doing until you have to do it. And it's taking one day at a time. And it's trying to eat when I'm hungry and drink more fluids, because the more clear fluids I drink through the day, the better my sugars are. And I promised myself that when it's all over, and it should be over by October, fingers crossed, toes, anything, I'm going to go buy myself a new pair of jeans, because I've lost about 40 pounds through the process so far. Wasn't planned, but it was definitely something that I can afford to lose, 40 pounds, but I get to buy myself a new pair of jeans when Alien Baby goes away. And I'm just trying to take it one day at a time and do what I have to do. So until we meet again, my friends, live long and stitch on. Bye-bye.